It was actually 1945. We were all happy to be alive and show the world that some have survived.
This is the miraculous story of what happened to the children in this photo. Here, they're on the brink of starting new lives, freed after years in Nazi concentration camps. Now in their 90s, they've returned to the same spot, surrounded by their families. Their story is also my family's story. 6 million people died in Hitler's plan to kill the entire Jewish population. Yet these children had survived against all odds. They'd lost their families, were forced into slave labour. Many starved to death. The remaining few were made to walk hundreds of miles on death marches. Those who could walk no further were shot. My grandfather, David Herman, was one of the survivors. He passed away 10 years ago. My journey began in Manchester, where 2 survivors who knew my grandpa now live. Ike Alterman from Poland was 13 years old when he was sent to his first concentration camp.
This is the moment we found out that the guards have disappeared, and we were told we were free.
Wow.
That's me, the one that's waving his cap. We were supposed to be gassed the following morning because they couldn't take us anywhere else, and they knew there was a crematorium there.
We saw death all the time. The chimneys, we smelled the flesh of people that were every day. There was a camp, especially for quarantine. That's where they gave me a number. B2413. They say they give you about 3 months to be able to survive. Well, I was there 7 months and I survived.
I came to Auschwitz, I was only 14. I came with 182 children. 180 went to their death. Just 2 of us got out alive.
We were traumatized all the time. We were worried, where's the next piece of bread going to come from? Because we were hungry, we were starving.
I'm part of a group of survivors and their families, heading to Prague to recreate a series of photos taken before the survivors moved to the UK. That's Sam in the top row. And that's Ike peering over a hat. Eric wasn't in any of the photos because he was chatting around the corner.
When the photo was originally taken here in 1945, these children stood together, their very existence an act of defiance, showing the Nazis that their plan to exterminate all of the Jews had failed. And now they're back here with the families they were never meant to have. And this time, it's their children and their grandchildren, like me, who have brought them here to celebrate their survival.
I've got photographs from 75 years ago. And it's as clear as if it was taken yesterday.
60 kilometres away looms the former Nazi camp of Theresienstadt, where most of this group was liberated. As the Nazis began to lose territory, the few surviving prisoners were transported across Europe to locations where the Nazis could finish the job.
After all the camps I've been in, that was our worst journey I've ever had. They had 1 wagon only for the dead people, they plunked them on there. Food was whatever they gave you. The bitter soup they gave you, I would have thought it's more poison than food. We ate anything we could get hold of. We see a tree with leaves. We had grass. This here.
That one. Sam and Ike were on the same wagon to Theresienstadt. As they approached the camp, they were liberated by Russian soldiers. Most of the prisoners were hovering between life and death.
The Russians were very, very good with us. They gave us 24 hours to do whatever we wanted, to take revenge on if we found some Germans and all that.
We were looking for food. We didn't look for any revenge. All we wanted was to fill our stomachs up, which we did.
We were delirious. We just couldn't believe that we're still alive. We couldn't believe it. At the same time, we were very, very sad because we still had to account for the loved ones that we've lost.
Theresienstadt is now a memorial, a tribute to those who lived and died here. Under our feet, mass graves marked by tombstones. We paid our respects to those we had lost or never known.
There were German Jews and Czech Jews here, and every so often we used to send them to Auschwitz with their children and the whole lot.
Wow.
It was shocking, diabolical.
How can we mourn 6 million? The enormity of the number is too much for us to process.
A service was held to remember the dead.
This camp brings up mixed emotions for the survivors who are here with their families, and for me and my family. It was the end point of lots of the death marches, and thousands of people died here. But it was also where the children who were in the camps were freed when the Russian army arrived. And when they had nowhere else to go, they made this their home until they found out that they were going to move to the UK to start new lives.
After the war, the British government agreed to accept orphaned Jewish children from the concentration camps. They could only find 732. Very few girls had survived, so the group became known as the Boys.
You can't express the joy we had. We've never been in a plane before. So all of a sudden, they get us on these planes. There's no seats. We all sat on the floor, and we were quite happy.
You can see Sam on the right. He cherishes a picture of the moment.
We're just coming out from the plane, and we are on our way to the Lake District with Windermere.
This was 3 months after the camps had been liberated.
That's 3 months after the camp.
You look very healthy.
Yeah, I looked normal. And then when we got to Carlisle and took us to the Lake District, that was paradise. There we started living it up.
That's me there.
Is that you?
That's me. The tables, massive long tables with tablecloth and food, bread, butter and jam. And we couldn't believe our eyes. So we started to grab the food at the same time, stuff in our pockets. We were still so traumatized of what it was like in the camps that we didn't realize that we're going to get some more food.
They began their recovery at a hostel funded by a Jewish organisation.
We had our own bed, sheets, pillowcases, and a little bit of chocolate in the side as well. Now, would you imagine what this meant? We've never seen chocolate in 6 years.
Supported by psychiatrists, doctors and the local community, the boys thrived. They went to school and learnt trades. Sam is on the right in a striped t-shirt. That's Arik in an English lesson. Slowly, their lives began to look more normal, but they were still haunted by memories of the camps.
How did you cope with everything you'd been through at a time when people didn't really talk about mental health or going through trauma?
We all got something that's left from the sufferings that we've had. But you learn to live with it. And when you're young and you start living it up, you think to yourself, right, I'm back to normal, maybe started dating girls or going dancing. And we got ourselves busy by being able to be independent. Amongst our crowd, there was one professor, there were quite a few doctors, plenty of dentists, and lots of business people. England has been very, very good to me. The best things that's ever happened to me to get to England, because I've enjoyed life in England, got married, brought children up, and it was absolutely wonderful being here.
The boys grew up together and formed lifelong friendships.
Thank you, Ben.
Their families became part of my extended family. My grandpa's on the far left. I didn't ask him all the questions I wish I had, to avoid going to painful places, or for fear of the answers.
We all suffered. We had things in common. We built our friendship along the way. After all those years, we still feel the same nowadays.
So after the war, we never had any parents. So they became our family. So we became a very big family. When we meet up amongst our crowd, it's like a brotherhood.
We made a life, a normal life, and we did everything possible to give it all to our families, and we made it, basically.
To see it through my father's eyes is the most important thing, because that's our heritage, that's the family that we never knew, because they were all wiped out.
I feel very strongly about making sure other people know his story. There'll be a point when they're not here to tell it themselves. To hear it from a family member who technically shouldn't be here because they weren't meant to survive is something that can't be beaten.
How has your father's story affected you?
I feel special, really, because of him, because he's a legend. The fact that I'm a daughter of a survivor makes me different, really, makes all my family different. I just hope that his story will continue through us.
Some say that trauma can be carried across generations. It's a weight that we all feel, but it's also become part of our drive and determination.
As much as he never spoke to us about it as we were young, as we were growing up, he never really told us his story, mainly because he never wanted us to know the traumas that he went through or to learn hate. He didn't want us to know that emotion. But we've always been aware of his circumstances. Some of us, it's harder than others to listen to those answers, to listen to the horrors of the Holocaust.
My grandpa also said that he didn't hate the Germans. He encouraged tolerance and an open mind in all of his family. It's those values that we aspire to keep alive.